The college football experience, Maryland Terrapins 2024 season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their brand new Pick 8. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football. Yes, they do have college basketball. So check it out. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. That's RITHMM. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Experience, Maryland Terrapins 2024 season preview episode. Yes, this is a fun one. It's always a fun one to do. Hopefully you're watching youtube.com/the college experience as we continue break down all 134 college football teams. Or if you're listening on the audio side, that's okay too. I just spent about 5 hours making slides, so I always try to have you go to YouTube to see this. But if you're listening on the audio side, I understand. I have a face for radio, and that's okay. Look, I'm excited to talk Terp football. I grew up in the area. My mother's an alum, and I for a while there, I had to go through some painful years where we had regional college football, and I would miss like the Red River Shootout, and I would watch Scott Milanovich or Brian Cummings play Wake Forest, and that was my game I got over just gigantic college football games at the time. But the program has gotten a lot better since then. If you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swig at Database Dan, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
I've been waiting for this team. We got a 12-team playoff coming. It makes no sense to me because this area, I grew up in it. They love football. The pro team has been destroyed, in my opinion. The Redskins are gone. The Ravens are good, but you know what I mean. It doesn't make sense. I've long lobbied George Mason should have a football program. Same with George Washington, and Georgetown should go FBS. But Maryland's right there. Maryland can do it. Under Armour money. What's going on? At one point, Bobby Ross had this thing rolling in the 80s. Bear Bryant coached here. We can do this. Let's go, Terps. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will see that there is someone else featured on this episode. I am honored to get this guy on the show. He's been a longtime listener, and I know he's a passionate Maryland Terrapin, fan, maybe an alum. I forget. I think maybe. Give it up for Benedict Dantold. How are you doing, brother? And appreciate you hopping on.
Man, Colby, this is it's an honor to be here, actually. So tried to do this last year. Couldn't make the scheduling work. Appreciate your patience and get me through this time. I know we had a couple back and forth, but this is exciting. I love Maryland football. Been a fan for almost 50 years. Went to Maryland, graduated in about the most horrible time ever. 1996, I graduated at Maryland. So Scott Milanovich, I have some stories. Maybe for another time over a beer, not right now. But I can't imagine you're not pining over the days of Jefferson Pilot Sports. You're talking about it like it was a big problem. Like when You had all the greats.
I love Doc Walker.
He called every single game back then. I can't believe he did it. But yeah, JP Sports, and you left out Fridge.
That's true. Fridge got a raw deal too. I'm still mad about that.
He was totally disrespected, run out of town when he had the program at the highest spot it had ever been in. Played in an Orange Bowl against Florida, and can't get any respect. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But 3 straight bowl wins for the Terps. They're on the right side. Recruiting's going in the right direction. I'm excited to talk about Maryland football.
Yeah, 12-team playoff. Now all of a sudden you win 9 games in the Big Ten. You might be in. We're going to talk all about it, folks. But before we do that, I want to tell you, you are listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And we're brought to you right now by our latest episode of SGP Stories. It's out now on Patreon. Myself, Stacking the Money Green, Real Money Kramer, the Sports Gambling Podcast, do a Forensic Files style deep dive on the Bobby Petrino motorcycle accident that cost him his job about a decade ago. I may or may not be wearing a neck brace and an Arkansas jacket with a Sugar Bowl hat. You'll have to check it out. Plus, make sure to check out the WNBA Gambling Podcast, as Terrell and Scott have you covered. They've been red hot with their locks over there. So check out all that. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right, we are back on the Maryland Terrapins podcast. Shout out to Robert Martin in the chat. He's talking CFL. He's talking everything. Scott Milanovich is the head coach of the Hamilton Ticats. So, and he's winless right now. He needs to get a dub. But, I want to know where you're at with Mike Locksley, because, and I've been on the show and I've talked a lot of shit, especially when they hired him, about bringing him in. Now, he has had 3 straight winning seasons, but I still want to. I'm still a skeptic, and I'll bring up a point in a minute. But where are you at with him as a head coach with your Terrapins?
So, there's 2 pieces to this. From an X's and O's standpoint, he's not where I would want a head coach. The team can be undisciplined. The team, he can make some poor decisions on the sideline, and it definitely costs them a win or 2 every season. Last year, the Northwestern game, they had no business losing that game. That was a coaching and a fundamentals loss. However, what he is able to do from a recruiting standpoint, he is actually winning back the state of Maryland. He is getting a lot of high quality recruits in. Just last week, he got probably the best quarterback recruit in the state, Malik Washington, to commit. And this guy he's a legit quarterback. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there's another Maryland guy who, let me get his name right. I got it written down someplace. Zamir Smith just decommitted from Alabama right after Malik Washington signed with Maryland. If this guy signs with Maryland, that's a huge get, and he's turning the tide. So if he can get the talent here that's from Maryland, I think Maryland can go from a 6-7 win team to an 8-9 win team. And if you're Maryland, you take that.
Yeah, and we've always said, me and Patty C and NC Nick, that we didn't understand how they're bad. Maryland produces a lot of it. The whole DMV is underrated for recruiting. Caleb Williams, most recently, the first pick of the fucking draft is from, the area, and same with a few other players that ended up on USC's team too, though, the running back from South Carolina. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but he transferred from South Carolina to USC, started for them last season. I'm drawing a blank, but same with Jordan Addison, who was at Pitt. There's just a ton of talent right there. You also you're not that far from Pennsylvania, which has talent. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me historically, in my lifetime for the most part, that they haven't been better. Now, I'll say this though, when regarding to Mike Locksley, and this is doing a deep dive on this stuff. I love preview season. I know it can be a grind for me. Just doing as many episodes, 134 episodes, and that's not including our regular week slate episodes and other stuff that I do, like FCS and Stadium Heads. It can be a little bit of a grind, but I love doing a deep dive and re-educating myself on everything. And one of the things I found shocking when pulling up this stuff was his record against Power 5 teams since he's been at Maryland. Winning Power 5 teams since he's been at Maryland, because this to me, as I might have messed up the graphic there, is shocking to me, because this is a guy that is 2-23 versus Power 5 teams with a winning record. NC State and Rutgers were the 2 wins, and NC State was in a bowl game where Devin Leary had left. He wasn't available. So they started essentially a backup quarterback. So I would only say like basically 1-23. That is my big red flag. I can't talk too much trash. 3 straight bowl games is 3 straight bowl games. Not often in Maryland's history, besides maybe Ralph Friedren and Bobby Ross. Can you say that? But and you're getting away from the Big Ten East, which should be noted. What do you make of that record, though, man?
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, now you have to take into consideration that they had Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan every single year while I was there. I mean, so 5 years, I think he was 1-14. Yeah. Or maybe 1-13, because the COVID year, I think they only played 2 of them. That's going to knock it down a ton. But you're right. I mean, they don't show up in the big game. And honestly, a part of me thinks like Talia Tagovailoa, as great as he was from a stat perspective, he never showed up and delivered in the big game. Like, he was your big time quarterback. He never got you over the top. They were always there. Like, once a year, they're there. Last year against Michigan, they had Michigan on the ropes. Couldn't get it done. Yeah. So yeah, this is where, if you had maybe a better coach, a sideline coach, you would win some of those games. But he's not strong enough to deliver on the sideline in those big games, and that's where you're just never going to be a national contender with Loxley. But like I said earlier, I think you can maybe not blow the Northwestern game last year, and then you're an 8-win team, or maybe you get a little bit more talent, you creep up to a 9-win team. Those are the types of things. And like I said, as a Maryland alumni, if he's getting 8-9 wins a year, you're not running him out of town for that, because that's better than what they've historically been the last 40 years, other than Friedgen.
Yeah, fair. I mean, look, but some of those losses, I get your point. The Big Ten East was ridiculous for Rutgers and Maryland and Sparty, but in Indiana, to like Purdue and Iowa and Wisconsin and stuff, where you're hoping that you can get there. I know he's not on the hot seat, but at the same time, it's like, I just feel like you should have a better record. Like, I feel like most coaches have a better record against good competition. At least, I mean,
2 or 3 times a year, I'm yelling at my TV going, what the hell are you doing? How the hell are we losing this game? It's unbelievable to me, some of the stupid penalties they make, and maybe they're unprepared. They don't show up for a game. Those are the places where he loses it. I go back a few years, they're playing Iowa on a Friday night, and they had a bad turnover early. Tagovailoa threw an interception. They're down, I think it's 14-3. He panics, throws Dante Demas back to return a kickoff. And on the kickoff, Dante Demas, who's their best player at the time, blows out his knee, done for the season. Like, promising career destroyed because he panicked and threw a 6'5", 230-pound guy back to return a kickoff. Like, that's just bad coaching.
Yeah. I mean, there's been moments, I recall it too, it seems like, where big penalties and big times are not prepared, or too many men on the field or stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, by the way, Josh Gaddis running the offense, Brian Williams running the defense. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here, but I do this thing with every one of the power schools where we talk about the teams that have upset them over the past 20 years. Maryland does have some bad losses, a couple to Middle Tennessee. Northern Illinois got them. Rutgers, when they were not in the Big 10, got them. Temple's gotten them 3 times. UConn's got them twice. Marshall got them in a bowl game. Bowling Green and UCF got them regular season. Is there one of those that just screams the most painful to you?
The Temple win, Temple loss. I mean, I think one of them, they had a 3-0 start. They were actually ranked when they played Temple on a Friday or Friday or Saturday. I thought it was a Friday night, but then they just got destroyed by Temple. I'm like, how do we show up at 23rd in the rankings and you just got destroyed by a Temple team that was nothing? So that's the one that destroyed me the most.
Yeah. And that was, I think, Temple with I know Matt Rule got him once, but the other ones I think were, I want to say it might have been like Al Golden or something when he was the head coach there. But yeah, I mean, it's something. It's every one of these schools for the most part has these. But it does seem like, I'll tell you this, Maryland learned when they were in the ACC, they played at these group of fives, at Northern Illinois, at Middle Tennessee, and at Temple. They didn't have many wins on the road at group of five teams when doing this deep dive. And as you can see over Loxley's recent tenure, they have not played group of five teams really on the road. So it's like they've learned, hey, why take that chance? That and the 9-game conference schedule the Big Ten, provides, as well as the 8-game compared to the 8-game ACC schedule. But anyway, and when are we getting this old logo back? This old logo is fire.
It's beautiful. I love that one, and I love the Terp script. That's my favorite helmet. I'll follow that one any day of the week.
Hell yeah. I agree that Terps helmet's great too. Look, folks, before we jump into talking about the offense, I want to tell you that the Maryland Terrapins 2024 season preview is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8 is now live. Create entries with up to 8 picks. The Underdog will automatically double flex entries, so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. The best part, you can win up to 325 times your original amount that you enter. And you can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. So sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. And the college football and college basketball I use all the time with Underdog Fantasy. Currently, I know we're in the summer, playing a lot of MLB, go Orioles, and playing a lot of CFL and UFC and stuff. So you can still, you think there's not much action, there's still a bunch out there. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Million. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And of course, Circa contests have no rake. Circa Millions, pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for $6 million, or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So check that out. And look, if you don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football, may I recommend the Ultimate Contest Weekend? It's a great time to go out, hang out with my pals, Stacking the Muddy Green and Ryan Romani Kramer of the Sports Gambling Podcast, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August 24th. And remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride. All right, we are back talking Terp football. I want to say rest in peace to the great Frank Wycheck, man. I remember watching Frank Wycheck. I was sad. I was saddened to see that he passed away. I think he just passed away in his sleep or something over the past, I don't know, like 6 months or something. But yeah, definitely bummed out on that one, man. I want to wish his family the best. Offense a year ago, the Terps, hey, they were kind of flying high for the most part. 51st in scoring per game in the nation, 29.7 points per game. That was 4th best in the Big Ten. You think 4th best in the Big Ten, you're thinking, hell, that's great. Also 4th best in yardage, 63rd in the nation, 387.3 yards per game. 21st in passing, a top 25 passing team, 278.9 yards per game. Number 1 in the Big Ten. It was not Ohio State, because a lot of people just automatically assume it's Ohio State. Kyle Honda McCord could not get that going. It was Maryland. And running the ball, though, 114th in running the ball, 108.4 yards per game. 12th in the Big Ten, 3rd to last. Wow. I mean, I guess that's the thing that's got to jump out. But I was going to ask you, what's the thing that jumps out? First in Big Ten in passing too, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it and you go, obviously, if you're first in passing, you're running the ball less than you are throwing the ball. So that's going to impact you a little bit too. But I definitely think that Maryland got away from the run way too fast last year. They have a good running game. Roman Hemby has been consistently good for 3 years, but they got away from it. And he dropped from almost 1,000-yard rusher to under 700 yards rushing. But his yards per carry didn't change that much. So they need to get back to the running game. And I think that is the critical piece this year. When you're switching quarterbacks, you're bringing in an unknown commodity to be your quarterback. The running game has to stabilize, and they have to bump that up. They have to be up around probably 130, 140 yards per game. The other thing you throw on there with the ridiculous college football stats of every sack goes against your rushing yards.
True.
That hurts it too, because when you're throwing the ball 65% of the time, you're going to get sacked a bunch. That's going to eat away at those yards.
Fair. Good point. Now the offensive side of the ball seems to be the bigger question mark coming into the season. They only have 3 returning starters, and I obviously misspelled Hemby's name. I was typing fast there. Running back Roman Hemby, no disrespect to him, but he's back. Same with receiver Ty Felton and Caden Prather. But breaking in an entirely new offensive line, you're brand new at tight end as well, and MJ Morris comes in at the quarterback spot, which we're going to get to in a second. But I mean, those are some red flags, man. For talking offense, like normally you want to be replacing the receivers and running back if you have to choose, as opposed to the offensive line and the quarterback.
All right, so to be fair, this has been Loxley's strategy. He recruits offensive linemen, and he goes after offensive linemen in the portal. So last year he brought 2 or 3 in. As you see, he brought in 4 offensive linemen from the portal this year. 3 of them are slated to start. A couple other guys who are slated to come in got reps last year, were contributors on the offensive line. So it could be a slow start, but I think there's a lot of talent here. Alubah out of Georgia was a big-time recruit coming over to Maryland to play. Kaltenberger from Purdue. I mean, I'll take an offensive lineman from Purdue almost every day of the week. The interesting one to me is Alan Heron from, I think, Shorter is a D2 school.
I think in Georgia, if memory serves me correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, he's slated as a starter and played pretty well in the spring game from what I could tell. But you're right. The offense is the big question mark. I never worry about Maryland tight ends. They seem to lose one every single year. A guy has a great year, transfers out. They have 2 or 3 more ready to jump in. Preston Howard showed a lot last year in limited plays. I hate seeing Corey Dyches go. He's kind of a hybrid tight end wide receiver, but they've got other guys in the pipeline. Like, you got Chigakonkwo, you got CJ Dupree. They all left. They had another guy step up. So I'm not worried about the tight end. I am worried about the quarterback. That's where I jump in.
MJ Morris, I think he's got like 6 or 7 starts in his career. He did at moments. I was surprised. To be honest with you, man, I was really surprised he transferred, because we knew Brandon Armstrong was out of eligibility, and we knew NC, like, he looked pretty good. MJ Morris did, maybe not all the way consistently, but he looked like there was promise. Mm-hmm. I remember texting my brother, who lives in Raleigh, and I was like, dude, this kid's pretty good, man. This kid, I could see potential. That's why I was shocked that he transferred. Now, maybe Maryland offered more money. I don't know the storyline behind that, but I know that it's even more shocking that you would transfer knowing that you have no starting offensive lineman returning. But I do think he's talented, and I do think there might be some learning curves for his first full season of starts, because I kind of feel like the other 2 years that he's played at NC State was kind of just like on the fly. He comes in, you know what I mean? Like Brandon Armstrong get injured. Oh, you're starting this week. When you know that you're the starter and you're the man, it could, you could do more prep. You could be better. I'm intrigued to see how it works out for him. But yeah, I think the big red flags would be offensive line and quarterback coming into the season. You're probably right with the tight end position. Now they did lose some guys. You touched on Deitch going to California. Rico Walker also went to Auburn. Tyrese Chambers, that was a guy that came in with like a lot of people raved about him from FIU a year ago. And he hasn't even gone to a school yet, so maybe who knows what the hell's happening there. That's not losing a ton of production besides those tight ends, right?
No, they actually, I think they're one of the most least impacted teams in the transfer portal. They lost maybe a dozen players. A couple on the defense were significant. None of these guys on the offense were major players other than Deitchus. Like Antoine Littleton was about a 300-pound running back who would come in and maybe gain 1.5 yards a carry. He wasn't the answer. Obviously, I mean, I think it's a downgrade. He's going to Temple. Chambers, yeah, I was high on him last year. Look at his.
I was too. Yeah,
he couldn't get on the field because Ty Felton took the next step and jumped up. And so the dilemma is what I think they have two great wide receivers. They both had over 40 catches last year, over 600 yards, 5-6 touchdowns, I think each. The problem is when they throw the ball, and you're here assuming that Morris is going to be the starter. That's not settled. Like Billy Edwards is still in the conversation, and I go to our lads and they have Billy Edwards as the one. So that's a question mark about what's going on at Maryland at quarterback is who's going to play. And I'm pretty solid that this is a year where both guys are going to play. And
wow. I mean, that's even more of a head scratcher though, because Morris was going to be given the keys to NC State.
Yeah. And I scratched my head too. When Morris signed with Maryland, Loxley was like, that was our number one target at quarterback. And I go, I'm looking around at all the other guys in the portal and I'm going, that's your number one target? He's not the guy like Curtis Rourke isn't your number one target.
Yeah.
I would take Curtis Rourke over MJ Morris every day of the week.
I mean, Dylan Gabriel, there's a lot that were out there that have been a little more experienced. Look, we're going to talk defense in a second, folks. I want to tell you also that the college football experience is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter data-driven decisions. 3 Ds in a row. It's always tough. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. So claim your free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Back talking Terp football. I think, the defensive side of the ball, call me crazy. I'm kind of digging what Brian Williams is doing on the defensive side of the ball. Didn't they hire like Kevin Steele for like a week? They had like Kevin Steele for like a week, and then it's like a blessing in disguise because Kevin Steele went down to Bama and they actually struggled, or no, went to Miami, I think, and struggled. And Brian Williams has really been, I think, doing a decent job here. They were 39th in the nation in scoring defense last year, 22.5 points per game they were giving up. That was 8th best in the Big Ten. 30th in yards, 8th best in the Big Ten. A lot of 8th best in the Big Ten out of 14. So I know you could say, well, that technically is on the backside of the Big Ten defenses, but Big Ten defenses are good. We're not talking about scoring 55 points a game here. They were 6th in rush defense too, 32nd in the nation. They were top 40 in every statistical category here on the defensive side of the ball. What do you make of Brian Williams, man?
I love what's coming of this defense. And what I really love is they're almost all back. The front seven, everyone is back. And that's a huge thing for this team. So that I expect that rush defense to improve. I think they're going to be a top 25, maybe top 20 defense in the country, just because you've got a lot of talent on that D line, and Maryland is known for its linebackers. They just get a ton of tackles the way they're set up. I can't get mad over the way that the defense is playing, and I think that is going to be the strength of this team this year, and it's going to keep them in a lot of games.
Yeah, and they 7 returning starters here that were on the Terps last year. More if you actually look at who started in college football. Quashon Fuller back on the line of scrimmage. Jordan Phillips. How do I pronounce this guy's name? Akinbosi?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the stud linebackers you referred to, Hypolite, Wyatt, breaking in new corners should be noted. Kicker Jack Howes is back as well. The big one though, is you lost Barham to Michigan, who I was just reading a story that this guy's going to be a top 20 pick next year. So losing,
he's a monster.
Yeah. Losing him to Michigan, and then you lose both Coleys to NC State, 2 corners. I don't know how much burn they got a season ago. And then Gavin Gibson making a great life decision. I love Maryland, but I mean, come on, look, Gavin Gibson saying, I want to go down there and try these Jaeger bombs down there in Greenville. Yeah, I mean, Barham's the one that really stands out here, right?
Yeah, it is. But again, they have a bunch of good young linebackers. Like Caleb Wheatland he had a bunch of stats last year, and Barham didn't play a bunch at the end of the season. They had other guys step up. So they had Wyatt and they had Wheatland who came in, contributed, and obviously Barham he's an exceptional talent. And going to Michigan, obviously he felt was the best thing for his career, and I don't begrudge him for that. Corey Coley actually put up great stats for Maryland last year, but they picked up a transfer who we are hopeful for in Jalen Husky. And then Kevin Thomas is a young corner that they are very high on, and they feel like he can jump right in. But you're right. They did lose 2 good corners last year in Shepard, and I'm blanking on the other guy's name. I think he was drafted, or he's at least on that.
I thought he was too when I was doing my prep. Hold on. I didn't have it. They lost Shepard, and they lost, who the hell is it? Still? Was that it?
Yeah, no? Torrey Still.
Yeah. Still. Yeah. There we go.
So, but they have Dante Trader is a massive athlete, plays lacrosse, plays football. He can do everything. Losing their strong safety, Bo Braid, that was a big loss. He's was the leader of the defense, did so much back there, but hopefully their replacement Fleming is ready to go and can jump right in.
Yeah, and look, they only added one guy, Jalen Husky, a corner from Bowling Green. And sometimes I think people just think, hey, small school guy can't be good, right? First off, he's projected to start. He started last year at Bowling Green. And I would remind, one of the best examples I thought in recent college football was Florida State getting Jared Verse from Albany in the FCS. And he was their best player on defense. They had guys transferred in from Alabama and Georgia, and and here you had a kid from Albany that was the best guy on that defense. But yeah, I was surprised that they only grabbed one guy really in the portal on the defensive side of the ball. I thought they might try to add a little more depth at certain spots, but they must feel good about it with those numbers they put up a season ago and bringing back so much.
Yeah, they do. And most of their sacks are back. Most of their tackles are back. Their interceptions, Glendon Miller, I think, had 4 or 5 last year out of the slot. And Jalen Husky he's a Maryland guy, played in Frederick, went out to Bowling Green, decided to come back home. So again, this just speaks to what Turgeon's doing with getting Maryland guys to play in Maryland. And
Loxley, Turgeon reference.
What am I doing?
Yeah,
Loxley. Maybe I should dial back the beers. But but Loxley is bringing the guys back, and that's the right thing. So I don't have many question marks about the defense. I think they're going to be the strength. And like I said, with a fairly nice schedule, I think they'll be able to stay in a lot of games.
Yeah, I think the one thing that jumps out when you think about it is no Michigan, no Ohio State. Oh man, for years they would get that death blow.
And they would always play them all in a row. It would be like you would play 3 out of 5 games would be Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, and you would just go, what happened to our great record?
And I have issues with that. And a lot of people that don't, I argue with a lot of people in the interwebs or wherever, if I'm at a bar. It's one of the things I think is underrated in college football is like they would give they protect the bigger schools within the conference. That's why I think I've always lobbied that a 12-team playoff, or not a 12-team. I actually thought it should be more than 12, but I always thought you got to have more like Arkansas. I think it was 2 years ago they spent a month on the road in conference play, right? And they would never do that to Alabama or LSU or Florida, right? And Iowa State, I remember a couple years ago had 3 straight games on the road. They would never do that to Texas or Oklahoma. So to me, I it's like you need a bigger one because you need a bigger playoff, because how do you know that those teams aren't better? It's just a harder grind. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to do that. So no wonder why you keep seeing a lot of the same teams. I really think that this playoff is a great thing for the sport. I think it's the best thing that's in my lifetime happened to college football. Now I would like to see some more auto bids, but Maryland's win total is 6.5. It's interesting. The juice, it's plus 100 to the over, minus 120 to the under. Not terrible. They're kind of in no man's land between 6 and 7, according to Vegas. Now, blindly, and I don't even know if I can use this with you because you've probably been looking at the Maryland schedule. Normally, I'm asking Patty C or NC Nick this before we dive into it, and 3 straight winning seasons, but you have to hit the bowl game doesn't count, so you can't get the 7th game. It's got to be 7 in the regular season. My first reaction, without looking at the schedule, was over because I knew they're not playing. They got out of the Big Ten East. I was like, I know they're not going to get all of them. They're not going to get that whole gauntlet. So I thought over. We'll see. How about you? Did you just blindly look at this, or did you have it memorized?
Well, I'll be fair. Like a couple months ago, this number was 7.5. There was or 7. Those are the 2 numbers are out there, and in my head, I was always under 7.5. I thought 6 or 7 wins is probably the right thing. They have a rebuild year at quarterback, trying to figure it out. It might take a little while to get things started. They have a fairly easy start to the season.
Yeah.
So if they get out of the gate and the offense moves and they run the ball early, there's an opportunity. But NC Nick and I were on X one time and we joked, Maryland, 6 or 7 wins. That's the number. Like that's the only number. Every single year, it's about as consistent as the sun rising. That's the number. So they throw the 6.5 out there and just go have fun with it.
Well, I don't get the brain man.
They're plus 10,000 there to win the Big Ten championship, plus 50,000 to win the national championship. The 12-team playoff odds, I couldn't find them yet. I've talked to some people. I think that's coming out in the coming month for every school, or at least the power schools. But right now, I could not find those odds. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're gonna be like, I'm bummed they don't have the 12-team playoff odds, because I will say, if you're a Maryland fan, 9-3 in the Big Ten probably going to get you in. Now they're probably going to be like, I know I did this. I looked at last season's college football, rankings, and I basically tried to compile what the 12-team playoff would look like a year ago. There would have been a 9-3 LSU team that did not get in, but I still feel like majority of the 9-3 teams were getting in, right?
And there's 9 wins on this schedule.
Yeah, there could be. That's what I'm saying. Like, so if you're a Maryland fan, when these odds drop, and I'm sorry that I don't have them for you, but it's something that I believe if you're a fan of your school and you're already going to, you've been hitting 6, 7, 8 over the past couple of years, why not sprinkle some of that? I'm sure the odds will be juicy too. Compare them to some of the other ones. Like I've already played Iowa plus 600 to make the 12-team playoff, which I think is a really good bet. Go listen to our Iowa preview. But anyway, let's jump into the schedule because you look at, if you're wondering what that number is on the right, I power ranked what I think are the easiest games and the hardest games, from one being the hardest, 12 being the easiest. I love the beginning of the schedule. Now, the question is can they navigate this? Because they get Jim Mora. Shout out to Jim Mora, friend of the program, been on this very show. Week 1 against UConn, and I will say, UConn's weird. Like there's certain games under Mora where I was like, hey, they look pretty damn good, and then I start to buy in, and then they'll lose to someone horrible. This should be a win. I am intrigued to see what that UConn defense can do with MJ Morris, but it should just be I still think like Maryland wins by double digits. What do you think here?
Maryland should absolutely win this game. Run the ball, play defense, win the game. Doesn't have to be pretty. You just get the reps, you get the team organized. You got a whole new offensive line, like you said, new quarterback. Just go out there, win by 2 touchdowns, and be done with it.
Yeah, and then week 2. Now this is one that I think you might be surprised. I'm a big Jonathan Smith believer. I think Aiden Childs is a name. If I was Mike Locksley, not to throw, I think MJ Morris will be good, but Aiden Childs is one that I'm super excited about that transferred in with Jonathan Smith from Oregon State to Michigan State. He played some last season. Now this is one where I called for Michigan State upset on the Michigan State preview. If you go listen to that, folks, reminding you that we're breaking down all 134. SEC and Mountain West are all done. Half the Big Ten is done. Go listen to those. This is a 50-50 game. I'm not going to bullshit you. I don't feel great about it, but I do think Jonathan Smith is such an underrated head coach. I thought he did an unbelievable job with Oregon State walking into a disaster. And I also thought when he left Washington, you could really see the Washington offense with Chris Peterson crumble. I had Sparty upsetting him here because I think Sparty's going to be a little bit better than what the experts think, but I don't have that strong of conviction on that play. How about you?
Yeah. If this game were in October, I would take Michigan State, but the fact that it's second week of the season, early on at Maryland, I think Maryland squeaks by and wins this by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing. I normally like to fade new coaches in September. That's fair. That's fair. Now, the next week, you go to Charlottesville to take on Anthony Calandria and Virginia. Old school rivalry. Patty C's glad this game's back on the schedule. I do have you winning this in Charlottesville at Scott Stadium there. So I have you bouncing back. That's kind of another thing, though, for the Michigan State thing. And let me ask you this. How much of a rivalry game do you consider Maryland-Virginia?
20 years ago, it was a massive rivalry game.
Yeah.
But this disaster of Maryland being in the Big 12 versus the ACC has destroyed every great rivalry I knew growing up. I look at it and I go, Maryland doesn't even have a rival in the Big 10.
They seem like a man without a country too. I agree. Like, it just seems weird.
But you do get a lot of guys who played high school football against each other in this game, no matter what. So last year was way too close of a game for my liking at College Park. So this one actually scares me a little bit. I think this is a game where Virginia can get up. I think Maryland gets by on their defense, but because I think Virginia can turn the ball over, and I think Maryland will take advantage of that. But this is a game I would not be surprised if Maryland lost.
I mean, I'm going to take them. I just don't know about Tony Elliott, but yeah, you're right. When you rivals, you throw the record books out.
Next 3-0.
3-0. I got them 2-1, and then they got the Villanova Wildcats. Villanova. Villanova Wildcats. They're good in the FCS, by the way, folks. If you don't know, they are a very good team in the FCS. But I got Maryland taking down Nova in College Park here and moving to 3-1. You got them 4-0?
I do have them 4-0.
All right, now hear me out on this. This next one's at Indiana.
I'm listening.
I'm starting to think about this, whether it's Michigan State or whether it's Indiana. Because I just previewed Indiana. Cignetti comes in from JMU, and he took the whole damn team. Like I was like looking at people give Dion shit. He took the entire JMU team. I was sitting there going position by position, with the exception of quarterback. I was like, James Madison's in the Big Ten this year. You know what I mean? I'm like, now who knows how fast that will work, but I will say this. And I was talking about this with UTEP, bringing in Scotty Walden at head coach, coming in from Austin Peay, and he brought like 35 transfers with him from Austin Peay. And I'm like, you know, I kind of want to take the over on those teams because they're familiar with the offense and defense. You know what I mean? It's another year in that system. They're not starting they're not starting fresh. So I'll say this, between Michigan State and Indiana, I think there's one loss. I do think this is a winnable game though. And it wouldn't shock me if Maryland's 5-0. It also wouldn't shock me if they're 3-2, but maybe Indiana is a scarier game than Michigan State because he's a new coach bringing in his own team. Does that maybe that makes sense a little bit?
Yeah. I actually have Indiana in this game. I think this is a classic spot where Maryland drops the ball. They maybe go in there feeling good about themselves. They have a bye week after, and they just don't do it. I'm pretty sure they won 3 straight against Indiana, and this is a time where I can just see them dropping it, and so I have them 4-1 here, losing to Indiana.
I'm with you. They get a bye week, and then they're hosting Northwestern. I think Northwestern's due for regression. They won so many. They won so many like 2-point games. So I got Maryland moving to the 5-1 here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like coming off a loss, coming off a bye, you have 2 weeks to prepare for a team that beat you last year, that really prevented you from maybe doing something special in 2023. At home, you take out Northwestern. You have to take them out 5-1.
Yeah. Then you're home.
The wheels fall off.
That I was about to say. Good Lord. The remaining schedules, good luck. You're home to USC. Now, I will say, you might be able to pull the upset here. I mean, I'm taking USC, but why do I feel like USC is not going to get up for a game at Maryland?
Especially if Maryland can get this a noon kickoff.
That's true.
Kickoff could change everything. Over the years, multiple times, West Coast teams, like Cal came over and played at College Park and just got destroyed.
Texas too, yeah.
Yeah,
right,
not ready to play at the early start. So I'm not putting Maryland down for a win. This is probably the first game of the season where I think they're an underdog.
Fair.
Maybe the Indiana game, but this one, they're an underdog at home. I don't know that they win, but I think they cover in this one. But I have it as a loss. I
got to take USC too, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, I don't think like USC is probably like College Park. Where the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like, you still have to take USC, but I mean, I guess if you could ride that momentum and upset them there, that would be quite the story there. Then they head to Minneapolis to take on PJ Fleck in Minnesota. You know, I'm kind of more bullish on Minnesota than most. I like Minnesota this year, and I think at home, I think Minnesota is going to get it done against Maryland. I like their physicality. I know last year didn't work out the way they wanted to, but I think they're gonna have a bounce back season there with PJ Fleck. Who do you got in this one?
This is the one that changes me between a over and an under on Maryland. Is if they can figure out a way to get this win going into the bye week, I think it really sets them up for maybe 7 wins. So, but yeah, I kind of agree that I don't know that they can get past Minnesota. I really hate PJ Fleck. Like just watching him on the sidelines, Just
he is super obnoxious.
I want horrible things to happen to that guy.
He's Danny Hurley of college football.
That's a perfect analogy. But he's never won anything, so Danny Hurley has a reason to be good, like to be who he is. But I have Maryland as a loss here, 5-3.
Yeah, and then they got a bye week for November 2nd. Then they head to Eugene. This game, good luck.
They're going to get 70.
I think they're going to get so fucked up in this game. Yeah, no win there. And I actually think this is a great spot for Rutgers too. I think Maryland's roster is better than Rutgers right now.
But Rutgers has a better coach.
It's true, and Rutgers' defense is really good too. And it's the offense that I worry about. Man, I'll say this, man. I'm gonna say I think Maryland ends up bowling, so they're gonna get one that I'm not seeing. Yeah. Maybe it's Michigan State. Maybe it's I'll give them this, but I don't feel good about this. If you know what I mean. Like I think Rutgers might have a pretty darn good path to being having a pretty good year with that defense they have.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I give Maryland the win here just because I agree with you. I think 6-6 is the final record, and this is probably the biggest place I could get to 6. Yeah. So that's why I took the win over Rutgers. Like, obviously, like this one, Minnesota, Indiana. I think Maryland wins one of those 3, and the one. So I took the one at home.
Agreed. And like I it might not be the Rutgers one, but I could see just one of those ones going their way. They're home to Iowa. I am really high on Iowa this year. I was doing my episode on Iowa. When was that? Like 2 days ago. 8 7-year players, is it?
How was that possible?
Oh, maybe it was 8 6-year players and a couple 7. But either way, I'm not fading Iowa's defense this year. I'll tell you that. I got Iowa beating Maryland in Maryland. How about you?
I agree. I'm gonna tell you right now, bet the alt under. There will be less than 17 points scored in this game. Take it right now.
Right now. Get on over there. Shop around.
This will probably show up around 32, 33. It's going to go way under that.
Then we have the game at Penn State. You know, for years on this show, I've got ridicule, and I'm not sure if you've caught. This was like probably 5-6 years ago when we were doing the show. I locked up Maryland. I think it was plus 7.5. And I said, sprinkle some on the money line. And they lost 59-0 to Purdue, or I'm sorry, to Penn State. And ever since then, I refuse to take Maryland in this game because it was like a meme. People were tweeting me saying someone took a photo of it or an audio clip of it and says, I'm locking this up, and they lost by 59 fucking points. They tried to make this a rivalry game. I don't value this as a rivalry game. Do you?
No, I mean, just look at the history. I think Maryland is all time like 277-1 against Penn State. I'm not even joking. Like that's probably about right. And I remember, I'll tell a little story. My freshman year at Maryland, I was drinking before the game, rolling into the stadium. Like I was like, I'll show up at the end of the first quarter. I rolled in with my ticket. We're down 42-0. It was like the second quarter. And I'm going, why did I even bother coming in here? This is the biggest waste of time of my life. Like that is Penn State versus Maryland. It is just a massacre. And like there was one time, like during COVID, we got Penn State and everybody felt good about themselves. And there was also, I think, another time back when Stephon Diggs was playing that we got him. Maybe during, like, after the Sandusky disaster.
Yeah.
Like, you hit them when they're down, but you can't hit them when they're up. And, I mean, that's the all-time goal is Maryland has to figure out a way to beat Penn State 1 out of every 3 years. And if they can beat them 1 out of every 3 years, then you know you're on the right spot.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hate
this isn't it though.
I hate when these conferences try to say this. They try to say, "Hey, Colorado, Utah is a rivalry game," and I'm like, not really. I mean, Yeah, we
Just
played.
because you share a border doesn't make it a rivalry.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, they played in 1895 once, but it's not like they played every year over their history. So when I think of Maryland Penn State, I'm like, as a rival,
The fuck is that?
but yeah, I got them 6-6, man. I think the under's the play, and
I have them 6-6 too.
And I kind of think 5-7 is more likely than 7-5. How about you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I look at the schedule and I go, there's 3 guaranteed wins, 2 guaranteed losses, and a crap ton of 50-50 games. They have a great schedule at home, playing teams that maybe they could knock off, like the USC game. That could be an interesting one. But I don't see very many scenarios where they get to 7. I think 6 is the right number. 6-6 is it.
I'll say this though. If we wanted to, like, I always like building this out as like, let's play. Can they get to 9? If they start out 5-0, which I don't think is that crazy.
No.
They get a bye week. They could beat Northwestern 6-0, and then USC would have all the pressure coming in there. I think they could be 7-0 out the gate. Now, I do think no matter what, if they're 7-0 and they go to Minneapolis, they will lose because that's just the game Fleck wins. They get like the fans excited. But that's 7 wins right there, and then you can sit there and say Rutgers, and maybe you find a way to beat Iowa because Iowa only scores like 13 points a game. And that's your 9 wins. And then you can sit there and say, we deserve to be in the playoffs. It's not that far fetched with this team, even though I'm on the under.
No, I agree. I think if they win all their home games, beat Virginia, beat either Indiana or Minnesota, that's 9. It is a realistic number. I said it like when you threw the schedule up, like 9 is in the realm of possibility. Now, do I wish they had Talia back? Talia with this schedule, maybe
Probably.
I'm looking at 9.
Yeah, you're right.
But having this be the down year where you don't know what your quarterback situation is, it really makes it hard to get excited on 7, 8, 9 wins.
I agree. And that's why I'll take the under, but still, if you start out red hot, that USC game could be huge then. And I still think if you're a Terps fan, and those odds come out, you might want to sprinkle, just throw a dart, put $50 on the Terps to make the playoffs. Cause I'm telling you, those odds are going to, if Iowa's plus 600, then Maryland's going to be more than that. You know what I mean? So,
1,500.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So it's worth the sprinkle because the schedule's not insane. Like I said, no Ohio State, no Michigan, no Wisconsin. I don't know if we deem Wisconsin great anymore, but but they're still a winning program within the Big Ten.
And you get your 2 big schools on the road, like Oregon and Penn State. Those are losses. You're not taking a home loss, just playing one of those teams. So that helps too. Fair.
Yeah. Agreed. I'm on the under. And look, he's an honest fucking guy. Benedict Dantold here. He's on the under too. Give
still win a bowl game.
Yeah, exactly. Still in a bowl game there. He's at Benedict Dantold on Twitter. Give him a follow. I appreciate you coming on the show, brother. It's been I know we tried to get this to happen last year, and then I was like, I got to get it to happen this year, man. So I appreciate it.
It's been great. I had a great time.
Yeah.
Look forward to college basketball season. That's the time.
Hell yeah. It's obviously Kevin Willard. It seems like he's got things going in the right direction. It's going to be a big year for the Terps there. Folks, check out all of our other previews. Once again, youtube.com/thecollegeexperience. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. The College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Follow. Also, iTunes. If you can go out and give us a 5-star review. Maybe you think we are idiots. Maybe you say, hey, we're winning 10 this year. And hop on over there. Give us a 5-star review. Give us the 5 stars. Then talk the shit, please. But yeah, I welcome it. Check out our other shows as well. The Stadium Heads podcast, myself and Michael Barker talking the history of college football stadiums, which, by the way, Benedict, this is Bird Stadium. I'm not calling it this other shit. What?
No, it's a terrible stadium, but yeah, forget all the names. It's Bird Stadium forever.
Yes, Bird Stadium. Come on. It's got national championship banners there. Check it out. Stadium Heads podcast. We talked all about it. Also, check out the FCS College Football Experience. Maybe you want to know about Villanova. We got you covered. And check out the Sports Gambling Podcast, the College Basketball Experience, as Benedict alluded to. When the season tips, we go live every single night of the season. And obviously in the off season, we're doing these coaching interviews, conference breakdowns, team breakdowns. Check it all out there. Also, the College Baseball Experience. A couple years ago, Maryland was pretty damn good. Check out the College Baseball Experience as well. Part of the Sports Gambling Podcast. Check them out every Friday night on VSiN. That's Brent Musburger's network. Appreciate you folks. Once again, youtube.com/the college experience. Till next time, this is the Maryland Terrapins 2024 season preview. Minnesota Golden Gophers up next. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot.